Okay, so first thing first, we have discussed on scoop, and majorly what we have discussed was that how we can import the data. So when we say import the data, we are bringing the data from your RDBMS to SDFS. Now within this import, we saw various techniques like importing the full table, importing the whole database. We also saw when we have some selective things to bring in, how we can do that, how you can write a complete SQL query within it. And we also notice few of the components with respect to incremental approach. This was kind of important because we understood that when we talk about incremental approach, basically what happens is that if you have some already data within RDBMS and you transfer it to your HDFS, then further to that, what happens with this, that if you have new data coming in RDBMS, you can still go ahead and import in the same directory and you are just appending your records. Then we saw yesterday on export, though I gave you as a homework, but we saw it yesterday that how we can do this portion as well. Now, so this was with respect to scoop, and then we started noticing few things with respect to case study. In case study, we saw various optimization techniques. Like we noticed that when we bring the data, what is the things we need to really look at? It's not like you blindly import the data and you start working on it, you start doing analytics on top of it. It will not work like that. You definitely have to ensure that you look at few things like null data. If you have any, you would like to transfer them out. Similarly, then we saw some other things. For example, we understood about how we should decide the number of mappers. So we did some experiments on tables and got some interesting results out of it. We also saw different file formats, like all the types of formats, what we have, what's the advantage for them. We did some practicals also around it to see that what's the advantage we get with these file formats. And then in the end, we also saw how we can compress the data. Okay. So all these things we have done in yesterday's session. Now, then we also spent some time to understand Hadoop 1.x, how Hadoop 1.x sort of works. We understood some components within it, like we have something called as task tracker, job tracker, and we saw that how job tracker was getting overburdened just because it have to do all the scheduling, it have to perform all the monitoring tasks, everything it have to take care of. Further to this, then we moved to Hadoop 2.x, which was yarn architecture. And we noticed that how with the help of resource manager, task manager, and this application master, which I told you as an analogy, think of it like your class monitor. It was able to all three collectively were able to reduce all that workload with a very smart logic that now application master will be responsible for a lot of activities. And based on that, we were able to basically able to reduce the lot of workload on the master machine. And this is what we understood as a part of the yarn architecture. So this is a quick review of whatever we have done in the last class. Clear, everyone? Now, what we are going to do in today's session? We are going to start with a very interesting topic called as Apache Hive. Okay.
So I just wanted to catch up on Scoop job before you went to Hive.
I will show you that in the end.
Okay.
That's a 2 minutes activity. Anyway, the same command was working later. I didn't did any change to that. I will show you. I don't know why it was giving at that moment some error. Okay, anyway, the Apache Hive. Now, talking about this Apache Hive, there will be a lot of interesting activities within it. For example, we will see that how we can work with respect to SQL commands, and with respect to SQL commands itself, how things will get converted. Now, there will be few things I will cover. Let me set the right expectation here that what we are going to do. Apache Hive is a pretty big topic, to be frank. And this is the most widely used topic because now you can work on it on top of so many components. Definitely with respect to time constraint, I cannot cover all the things, but I will still cover some major things from Apache Hive perspective. So we will be covering today very basic Hive. Today part will be very basic, Hive, just to give you an insight that how Hive works. Very small demo, not up to a great extent, but you will get some insight that how Apache Hive works, what are the things embedded in it. Tomorrow's session is going to be advanced Hive. We will deep dive into some advanced concepts here, and we will see that, and even you will see that we will start working on some smart data sets, which is going to be bigger in nature as well. Further to that, I don't know if it may take one class or two class, because I definitely want to talk in depth on this, or maybe 1.5 class. We will see to this. Then I will start talking on optimizations. This is going to be again from my industry experience, that what are the things you need to keep in mind to perform a lot of optimizations. And once you listen to this portion, definitely I can keep talking even for this portion a lot and lot, but I have to limit myself. I can promise you that once you go through this optimization techniques, you will forget Impala if you're already using it. Just with this optimization, I'm not going to talk about Spark. I'm not going to talk about anything. I'm only going to talk about optimizations, which are available in Apache Hive, but not basically with Impala or anything. So this basically helps across to run your queries really, really fast. Okay. So all these things I will be bringing from my industrial experience. So this is going to be a very important concepts which you need to wait for. Most likely, I will try to keep it as max as possible. But again, due to time constraint, I will tell you some major things which are definitely going to be helpful for you. So these are the concepts we will cover. And then in the last, I will see to it if I can introduce a case study for you. So I will upload a data set beforehand for you in that case, because I think this data is around 1.5 GB. I need to see if we can upload this much big data to your cloud also or not. I need to see to that. Otherwise, I will try to reduce it, the size, and then give you. But I don't know then how fruitful that would be, because I really want to show you the power of Apache Hive with respect to a real set example. But we will see to this. Maybe this I'm keeping it park right now. But after doing this case study, you can hit any high problems easily without any trouble. Now, going ahead and let's move on to this topic. Any questions before I start?
Yeah, Shivank. The team had set up Cloudera on on the virtual box, but when I was trying to log into Hue, I was not sure on the credentials part.
Just provide admin,
I did, but it threw an error
whatever.
saying invalid creds.
Um, are you using caps or something? Just check that. It should look.
No. Okay. Okay. Let me try again.
Yeah, just try admin. Otherwise, try Cloudera.
Mm,
I'm sure it's admin only.
okay. If this doesn't work, then it should be Cloudera, right?
Yeah, just try that. I think it's admin because I logged in front of you guys only. Um,
Okay.
in fact, anybody else who tried it with this year?
No, the team has installed tried logging in.
Our team have installed what?
Virtual box on their laptops, because till yesterday we were using it on Cloud Labs, right, to access you and to
Okay,
access the console.
sure. Just try that.
Shivank, actually, I also tried it, but it's showing invalid password and username.
Can you try Cloudera right away?
Yeah, right away. Just right. Okay, I will try
Cloud,
Cloudera. Oh, one second.
Cloudera is working for me, Shivam.
It's working. Then use Cloudera. Actually,
Okay.
by default, it comes out to be admin. Uh, I just gave you a machine which I have customized a bit. So that's basically is a little customized machine. Maybe I don't recall it to be frank. Maybe I have changed this password. But if you would have downloaded this directly from the Cloudera website, the password was admin. But I'm not sure why I changed it.
Okay, but this image we have downloaded from from the one you shared.
Yeah. So this image which I have given you, I have done some customizations in that
Okay.
to make it a little optimal. Because actually, the laptop which I'm using it for training, it's just having 8 GB RAM. And
Oh, okay.
in the Cloudera VM, you need at least 16 GB RAM or something. So what I've done is I have done some optimizations within that machine so that this machine only take 4 GB. And the intention was also to have the same thing for you guys also, that if you have lesser RAM, then at least you will be able to do all this.
Okay.
Cloudera is working actually.
Perfect. If it's working, then use that. So everyone have it now set up. If not, please do that. Now, I think, Grish, you can probably help out others as well if required.
Yeah.
Sure. Let's move to our first interesting topic, which is going to be Apache Hive. To start on this topic on Apache Hive, um, let me give you first of all a visual understanding of it, how it works, what are the things which happens behind the scene for you, so that you get an insight. And I will show you a small code snippet around it that see what's the change or what's the things it's going to bring in for you. And then we will go into theoretical section. So today is going to be more theory on Apache Hive, just a small practical component. And tomorrow it's going to be complete practical. Now, so to start with, let's say you are writing a query, which is a SQL query, right? So you are a client. Okay, you're a client. Now, so second thing is you will have something called as a meta store. Forget about it. If you don't know what is this, I will just explain it. This is a meta store. And the third one is your HDFS. This is a Hive client. Okay. Now, one thing is this meta store is sitting in MySQL or Oracle DB or somewhere, right? Let's ignore why it's sitting. I will come back to it in some time. So what you did here, like I said, what you do in Apache Hive, you write your SQL queries, right? So as a first step, what you did, you came here and said that, hey, I want to say create a table T1, maybe column C1, and maybe it's of integer type, let's say. Okay, simple. So I just created a small minor table having this type of record with me. What's going to happen behind the scene now? Number one, when you're working on Apache Hive, what you're exactly doing, though Hive is writing a SQL query, but we have just discussed that it converted to the MapReduce code and then it executes and returns the results for you. On the other hand, in RDBMS, what used to happen, in RDBMS, when you write a SQL query, it used to go to the SQL engine, and from that SQL engine, it used to get executed that SQL query itself and return you the result. Right? That used to happen there. Now, since you're writing and it's basically at the back, it's MapReduce only. Definitely, in MapReduce, if you recall, what kind of things you were doing? You were working on a file. You were working on a directory, right? You were doing that. Means, on other way, I should say you were working on HDFS, right? You're working on HDFS. There's no engine as such. So what does this mean? This means that if you're working on Hive, all the activities at the back are definitely going to happen on HDFS only. There is nothing like engine, SQL engine for you here. So now, since it's all happening on SDFS, means everything will get performed in terms of files or directories. There is no other way you can do anything. You can only have files or directories. So which means even if you're writing a SQL query like create database, let's say Shivang, then in that case, it is going to create something like in terms of files or directory only. There's nothing else it can do. So instead, in fact, what it do is it go to SDFS and create a directory called as Shivang. Okay, this is what exactly it do for you. Now, in fact, let me show you this quickly in the practical, then I will come back also to this so that you can see what exactly is happening also here. So let me quickly open my terminal. First thing first, how I can connect to Hive? I can simply say, Hive. I got connected now. Okay, something is wrong here. Let me see what's that. Okay, name node have somehow gone in the safe state. Let me just remove it. Can anybody tell me if you are aware of this part? What do you mean by safe state? Safe state. We have already learned about FS image and edit log. Can anybody make out what exactly might be happening? Just a guess here. Meanwhile, let me just get the command. I don't recall that command. So there's a command which I will hit and it will remove it from the safe state. But I want to just want to quickly check with you guys. What do you mean by this safe state? With respect to our learnings, what we have done, in case if you come across the situation, what would you say about it? Any answer? Vish, any guess from you?
So Shivank, I believe when the name node is on safe mode, right? The HDFS will not allow any kind of modifications on the system.
Okay, but why that happen? Means why this generally might be happening around? Any guess around that? Maybe let me give this option to somebody else to answer. How about you, Aditi? Any thought? Means it may not be right. It's completely okay. But can you give this? Good that this error came in front of you. So why this might have happened? Or what exactly happened, Aditi?
Um, just thinking, um, it could be probably that the image is getting saved,
Image is getting saved. Which image?
the log image.
Log image. Okay. Um, okay, Arun, would you like to add something to this? Any thought? Arun?
Does it mean that it doesn't have any pending edit logs?
Not exactly. You guys are coming close. I would not say it's a complete wrong answers, but I'm still looking for something better. Uh, Gaush?
Uh, so what I'm thinking is like if it is in a safe mode, like maybe some one of node or any the ecosystem component is not working. That's why the SDF has gone into safe mode.
No, if it's not working, then I can just hit up and it will start working.
So somehow like only if it is right, if it is in a safe mode, it cannot process something or some writing or some other.
Yeah, now you are coming.
Is could could it be because of low memory?
Yes. So now coming close to it. So if you recall, what used to happen, like sometime when, so let's say this is there, right? Let's say I open my VM right now in front of you. Imagine it like a cluster for now. So in that case, what will happen? My FS image and edit log will get combined and it will load it to the RAM of my system. Agree? That's the first thing it will do. Now, what also we have learned was that these data nodes also send the block report spontaneously, right? It sends the block report. So sometime what happens is it do some load balancing and all that just to ensure that it have set up everything properly for you. And with respect to that, if some changes happen inside this SDFS, name node will get to know. Now, at this point of time, what's happening is we are in the process of basically updating this FS image and all. Once this is happening, once the changes are happening, some written changes are happening around it, what name node do? It will say, hey, I'm going in safe mode node now. I will not allow you to do any writing within myself. I'm not going to let you do any writing right now. only reading will be allowed. Because I'm doing something into my RAM right now. I'm basically updating myself. So it's like whenever any updating into this FS image or basically into the name node is happening, at that moment, it will not allow you to write anything just to avoid any type of problems. So now, since I was using my own Cloudera VM, it was very easy for me to hit that command as a DFS admin and able to leave that safe mode. I said, hey, I'm ignoring you. I'm going to write it. I'm not going to bother what you're doing right now because I'm really not bothered. Whatever is in meta store, it's okay for me. But if you're working on a cluster, you may not have the permissions to hit the command like this. So it will let it happen, then only you can write it. So it's like a wait period for some time. You have to wait for me to update myself completely with all the changes which I'm getting from these data nodes or any changes which have happened. And once those changes are okay, then I will allow you again. I will go back automatically into my non-safe mode and you can start working. Clear on this part? So this is the command which I hit as an admin, Hadoop DFS admin -safe mode leave means forcefully sort of saying that, hey, I don't want in the safe mode. Okay. But like I said, in clusters, it may not work if you are, unless and until you are an admin user. Okay. Now, since we understood about this part, we just saw how to go inside Apache Hive. So we were inside Apache Hive and you can see that I can see a terminal here with this. Now what I'm going to do with this, number one step, let me say create database Shivan. So let's say I just created this, create database Shivan. Now, if I execute this, let's see what's going to happen at the back. So what will happen at the back? So here, let me come to my queue. Okay. So once I'm inside my Apache queue, there is a default directory. It's taking some time to load. Let it complete. Okay. So once it's done, let me go to my file directory. Okay. Let this open. Today looks like this queue is working a little slow. Okay. So once this is done, so by default, we go inside /user/cloudera, right? But now I will not go with /user/cloudera. Hive have its own default directory. You can see there is no folder created as Shivang, right? But if I go to /user, inside /user, you will find a Hive folder. Let it open. We can see here, there's a Hive folder. Let's go inside it. Now inside this Hive folder, you have a warehouse directory. Now here, can you see shivang.db got created, right? So this is the directory which it have created in the default location of your Apache Hive. Now, tell me one thing. If I click on this, what will be inside this? What will be inside this? Any guess?
Like there would be nothing because no data or nothing is stored. No database or not created.
There is nothing inside it because that's obvious. It will be having no data or nothing we have just created till now here. So that's the reason if I click inside this, you can see here, it's going to be all empty. It's all empty. Now what happened at the back when we hit this query? Now, in order to understand this, let's come back to our diagram and let's get back to the previous one here. So instead of, let's say, create table, let's say in the starting I hit create database Shiva. What just happened at the back? Number one, it before it do anything, before it even created the SDFS directory, it goes to your metastore. So what is metastore? Inside your any DB, relational DB, which could be a MySQL DB or Oracle DB, you will have a table called as metastore table. I will show you also in view how you can see that. So it will create a metastore for you. It's a table. Now inside this table, it will keep a lot of records. Okay, for example, let's say when you hit this database, it will keep the record that, okay, it have created a database. So it will create the metadata of all this. For example, when you say create table T1, C1 integer, what will also going to happen is it will create in HDFS, first of all, because of this command, it have created the Shivang directory for you. Now inside this shivang.db, automatically it append.db also to denotes that it's a database. Now inside this shivang.db, it will create another file for you, or sorry, a directory for you, which should be of T1 type. So it's going to be with the name T1 for you. Now the question is, what's going to happen for column C1? For column C1, there will be no file getting created. Instead, what's going to happen is inside this metastore table, it will create all the details for you. For example, it will say that, hey, I am the table T1. I have the columns, let's say C1, which is of type integer. I'm being located into this location. So what is my location here? Who is the owner of me? Lot of metadata details related to that will be stored in a row for you. Okay. So it just created this directory for you, but all the rest of the details goes to your metastore. Now, when you say select strict from T1, what's going to happen? It will first always go to your metastore. In your metastore, it will search where the T1 is there. Once it will get the table, then it will get to know the location, it will get to know everything, and it will go and quickly read all that. Okay, so this is how it will be returning the data. I have still not talked about complete things, but before that, any questions on this? Everyone clear on the first part? Perfect. Now, so this is the first step to understand how you are working with respect to your basically Apache Hive in a simple manner. Let's understand now few more interesting things within it. In order to do that, what I'm going to do is, let me take you back. In fact, before even I do this, let me ask you a question. I will take you to the practical, but let me ask you a question. Why we are keeping this meta store in my MySQL, and why not this meta store could have been a part of SDFS itself? Why we needed this RDBMS? Anybody speaking something because I can't hear?
Manju, you're not audible.
Yeah, same from my side. I think it's an issue. Avinash, would you like to try? Any thought? You need not be correct. Just throw your insight. What do you think? Why we're keeping a MySQL? Hi, I can hear you. Can you
No idea. Sure.
just sentence? If it was in SDFS, maybe this could be a problem.
As it is using Metastore.
Okay, no problem. Any thought from you, Gayatri? So today I want to give chances to the people who generally remain silent also. Gayatri, any thought? No idea. Okay.
No.
How about you, Ram? Ramnath, any thought?
I think
I am
Yeah, Ram, you can answer that first.
Shivank, I think metadata is in the tabular format, like a database, a data format. So that's why it's stored in MySQL.
No, that's not the exact reason. It's not an issue, right? We can still use sequential Parquet formats. They could be also better.
Seven, I think we are performing SQL query, and it's easy to look the data in the tabular formats. That's why we are storing in MySQL database. And if we store any data in file format, that would be like difficult to search indexing based on.
Very good.
So
Very
it
good.
may be the reason.
That's very good thought. So definitely one thing is indexing. The indexing happens based on these table names. So let's say if I say select S3 from T1, the searching for this T1 will be very fast if we are doing it inside the MySQL. Because imagine if you're working on Apache Hive from let's say more than 5-6 years, then in that case your metastore will be huge and searching will become a complicated task in that case. So whenever you hit the reading query, then it will become a problem. That's the reason, that's the first reason I should say, why we keep it inside the metastore. Very good answer, Pradeep. Now, except Pradeep, anyone want to add another thing to it? Arun? Arun, would you like to add something?
No.
No thought? Anybody who want to add something to it? So one is the correct answer. There is one more. Think about the property of SDFS and you will be able to answer it.
To connect multiple users at a time.
Backend of SDFS also available. Quite easily, right?
To store the logs.
No, that's also is not an issue with SDFS. Gaush, any thought?
Mostly like the end users will be the SQL.
Yeah, but trying to find another problem with SDFS. Okay, let me answer that. If you look
Is
at
it transactional because of the transactional kind of?
now you're coming closer, not exact answer, but coming close. What was the major problem in SDFS? If you have written the data, will you be able to edit the data? No. But you need the editing of this data. You will continuously require to add more and more details. Secondly, sometimes you will also be changing these things as well. Like you may say, hey, earlier it was sitting in this location. Now I want to move to another location. Earlier the data type for C1 was integer. I would like to make it maybe character. Is this feasible to do in SDFS? This editing part? No.
No.
That's another challenge, or in fact, I should say that's a major big challenge. Due to this, we don't keep this meta store inside SDFS. We keep it inside the MySQL DB. Otherwise, if this was not an issue, then we would have preferred to keep it inside SDFS if it was a concurrent reading or something like that, because SDFS is really good in that. But since we need so much of editing, appending, and querying fasting, so all those things required, that's the whole reason of deciding this architecture. Now, let's get back to this. And okay, before that, any questions from anyone?
Yeah, Shivang, can you share some thoughts like why only MySQL but not any other RDBMS?
It could be any RDBMS. In fact,
Oh, okay.
uh, Hive comes by default with Derby database.
Yeah, right.
The problem with Derby database is that only one user can work at a time. Multi-users forget about it. It don't work. It's very simple and lenient as a small database, which will help you with all the metadata storage, but not for concurrent usage. So this is not good.
Okay.
Somebody was saying something? Okay. Yeah, so Derby database is what we have removed, and I have replaced it with MySQL here. But you can use Oracle, you can use Microsoft SQL Server, anything is fine. Anything is fine.
Okay.
When I was working on, right now as a consultant working on some Oracle projects, what is happening is I'm using their Oracle DB for all their Hive queries. So they don't even use MySQL, though MySQL also belongs to them only, but they use internally Oracle DB for storing all their meta stuff. Okay. Now getting back to this. Any other question from anyone? Okay. Now let's get back here and let's see that what all things we can perform on it. Okay. So what I'm going to do first, I am going to create a table here as the number one thing. In this table, I will be adding few things around that. I will show you what all exact things I'm going to do with it. And I'm going to also load some data. So I will also explain you how in your Hive, you can perform some data loading activity as well. How we can actually load the data inside my Hive queries. So first thing first, let's create a table. So I would say create table T1, and I'm going to say, let's say C1. I think it's sent only, but let me still. I sometimes forget the syntax of MySQL with Oracle DB with this. I use all the DBs and I get confused myself a lot. Okay, so I created a table T1 having a C1 integer and C2 integer. Now what I'm going to do, let me open a new terminal. Not showing up. Okay, let me open it from the top. Okay, and let me create a file a.txt or whatever I want to create it. So it's completely fine. And what I'm going to do inside it, I'm going to say, hey, add me 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, this is the data what I've inserted. You can see it's mapping well with C1 and C2 integer. Right? Let's come out of it. Now what I want to do, let me load this data. Hadoop DFS -put a.txt. and let's say, let it get loaded to my HDFS location, which is /user/Cloudera. It's taking some time. Okay, so what we just did was I basically went ahead and executed a command to load, create a table. And then further to that, I just said that, hey, go ahead and allow me to load this particular data. Now what will happen? When I would like to insert something to it, then it will be a small challenge here. Let me tell you what kind of challenge I'm basically referring to. So for example, let me come back to my second terminal now. So I would say load data. I will explain you all this. Okay. Path. Let me give this /user/cloudera/a.txt to table. Okay, let me explain you what first of all this command is going to do. Now listen to me very carefully. This is going to be important. First thing first. So what we are saying is we are working first of all in our Hadoop systems like Apache Hive system. When you're working on Apache Hive system, see, we are more habitual of seeing this command, right? We say that insert into table, some table values and so on, right? We are habitual of seeing this command. So this command even will work in your Hive as well. It's not a problem. You can use this command as well. But when you're working on Apache Hive kind of component, which deals with big data, then inserting using this insert command will not be a good idea. But instead, what will happen is when I have a terabytes of files available with me, I would like to insert them completely immediately on that path. So for that, we use this command load data in path, which means I am going to load the data from this particular path. I gave my HDFS path right now. Okay, some HDFS path with the file name I gave it. Then I said into table T1. Now what it did actually, it went to my meta store. If you recall this diagram, okay, it went to this meta store, identified where my T1 got created, and there what it did, it actually at the backend what it will do is it will hit this command hdfs dfs -mv. Now remember, it's not doing a copy. -mv move command from your location /user/cloudera/a.txt, and it will move it to /user/hive/warehouse/shivang.db/t1. Inside that, it will bring this a.txt file. This part is clear to everyone, what it is doing at the back. So it is going to completely move down your file, basically from this location, which means it's a cut paste operation. So from here, you will not find this a.txt at all, but instead this a.txt will be lying here. So this is what's going to happen here. So now this is the first thing what this command will do, because it will get to know the location of T1. And as soon as it will get the location of T1, it will hit this command. Now notice one thing here. What just happened? We just learned that Apache Hive converts everything for me to MapReduce code. But on the other hand, I'm saying that for this command, it will at the backend will hit this. Why this is the case? If you convert every query to the MapReduce way, it will become very slow. Though it is feasible to do that, but it become very slow. So what Apache Hive do, when I will come to architecture, I will explain you a bit more. But what Apache Hive do, Apache Hive ensures that wherever the optimizations are feasible, wherever I can do this job by some other activity, I should be able to do that. That's the reason you are noticing when I hit this create table T1, Have it taken any time here? It quickly finished. Do you think MapReduce can finish that fast? No, it can never finish that fast. But this command finished very fast. That means it have done something at the back. Even you can see there's no mapper shown or reducer shown right now. You will see it very soon. But where can you tell me when it did create table T1, what is the command it might have hit? Any guess? This should be easy.
Make directory.
Make directly. Very good. So it should have hit SDFS, DFS, -NKDR. So wherever feasible, I will do all the optimizations feasible here. So now, since I have loaded this data, let's go and check in my queue whether it's showing up also or not. First of all, let me refresh this. It should show me T1, and inside T1, I should be having a file. Okay, let me tell you it will not be there. Can you tell me why? You will be surprised to see it will not be there. Yes. Can you tell me why? Any guess now?
Read access. You don't have read access on the file.
Yes. In fact, not read SS. What just happened was I didn't set use Shiva, right? Just like in when we were working even in our RDBMS, we have to tell, right, which DB I'm going to do all the operation. Same thing is also applicable here. So what it might have done where the T1 got stored, there is a default directory also. There is a default database also, default.db. Inside that, it might have gone and created this T1 and the file as well. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Okay, so now I have to again create it. But if I do this, it will not work. Why? Because a.txt will no more exist here. Reason being, it's a cut paste operation what we have done last time. Let me again bring it up now by using a put command. Now, since this came up, let me get back to this. And now if I say load data in path, you can refresh your query again. So you can see this T1 came up here, right? Before, because it's a default location here. Now you can see T1 also showing up in shivang.db. Now this T1 have this file a.txt, as you can see here. All the data is also coming up here. Now, if you want to go and check in /user /Cloudera, you can see here we don't have any file right now available with us, which can be called as a.txt. Reason being, it's a cut paste operation. Now, let me show you something surprising. Okay. If I do now select strict from T1, you will notice a weird result. How many records we have inserted? 4. Now notice this. What just happened? It's little surprising right now, right? We are seeing all the null data right now, which means um, basically there is nothing I can see as per the records at the moment. But definitely it is able to read. Why? Because I know that I have inserted 4 records and on all the 4 places I got null. Something weird must have happened. Any guess why?
You just
Yeah.
put the file there, but you didn't import.
Shivang, it may be due to the file format that we are not specified.
Very good.
Because of the comma separated.
Correct. So what happens is Hive have the default format as invisible character, but here we have given as comma. So what happened due to this? Because of this, you will see null. So now what exactly happens? So in RDBMS, if you recall, in RDBMS systems, whenever something like this happens, there is a schema mismatch. Let's say you have said create table T1 and you say it's an integer and you try to insert, let's say, a string to it, it throws an error, right? It gives you an error if there is a schema mismatch around it. But in Apache Hive, that do not happen at all. In Apache Hive, what it do, when you insert the records, it will not do any check for you. It will not do any schema check for you. And that it do it because it wants to have the writing operation very fast. Because it do takes a lot of times to write, otherwise it's huge data. So that's the reason Apache Hive allows you to write without any check. But once it is written, once you want to go back and read it, then at that time this will become a problem. Then if it will not be able to match up the schema, because when you're reading it, you will have the meta store. In your meta store, you will be having the column details. So it will go, once it reads, it will say, hey, this C1 should be of integer type, but basically here I'm seeing something else. That's the reason there will be a problem in this case. Okay. So wherever Hive do not understand your schema, it start returning null to you. That's a property of Apache Hive, which means Hive verify your things at the reading time, not on the writing time. And that's the reason Apache Hive is also called as schema on read. This is a term for it, schema on read. Now, coming back to this. First of all, everyone clear on this part? Why I got null?
So can you explain why it's called schema on read again?
Because at the time of writing, you are not verifying any schema. But at the time of reading, you are doing the verification on your schema. And if it's not matching, you're returning null across for it. So that's the reason it is called as schema on read. Means at the time of reading operation only, we perform all the schema checks.
Okay.
Any other question from anyone? Okay. Now.
So, Shivank, very quickly, in the location warehouse under shivank.db, the data would be stored correctly, right? Only then it is able to identify there are 4 records inserted, isn't it?
In fact, I can show you also. Let's get back to this. And I can go to /user /hive /warehouse shivang.db T1. Now, can you see this? File is getting, as you can see, once it will open up, the file which is getting stored is exactly in the same format, exactly in the same way how my original format was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I can't hear you though. Do I need to speak something?
Sorry, sir.
So we just understood about this first component of it. Now, how to fix it? In fact, I wanted to do one more exercise before we fix it. This time, what I want is create this table with the first one as varchar. Okay, means a string value. So basically the data type is string, string. So I want you to basically create a table, call it as, let's say, T1 or something, and create the first column C1 as string, second column C2 as integer. Okay, let me note it down for you. Table T1, where the first column C1 should be of string type and the second column C2 is going to be your integer type. Okay. Create quickly, just like how I created a data, right? You can do it using the cat command also. We have already learned it, how to insert the data in a local file system. Create a a.txt file quickly. Insert the same values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Load it to your SDFS. Throw the command of load data in path. I will show you that command. And then tell me the result of it. And also explain me whether that is an expected result or not. Everyone clear on the problem statement? Which you have to do on your lab? Okay. Only one difference is in your cloud, you don't have this configured as /user/hive/warehouse. So you will not be able to access it. They have sort of done some restrictions around it so that nobody else can go and kind of corrupt or delete some data, because you can easily go and delete it also, right? So they don't want that. So anyway, create a database also by your own name so that you can do all this activity inside your own DB and it will be more easier for you to recognize them. Otherwise, there will be a lot of DBs and tables. Okay, let me show you the command. So first of all, everyone is clear. String integer and load this same file, which is 1, 2, 3, 4, and tell me what's the result and also explain me why that is correct. So this is the command in front of you for doing the load data. If you need any syntax help, please immediately ask me.
Shiva, coming back to your null values,
Mm-hmm.
why not it is showing error? Why only null values? Because if there is some error in the schema or if it's not trying to read properly, then why not error?
So Apache Hive architecturally is designed like that because you're reading such a huge data. There is a possibility that even maybe you have done some mistake in one column. So what it will do, it will ignore that one column and show you the null, but it will still show you all the other columns reads as well. And you will find it very helpful also. When you will load very huge data, sometimes you don't know whether you're reading it in the right way or not. So maybe at least when the partial result coming up, you will say that, okay, for this one, at least I'm reading it correctly. For this one, I have done some mistake. It could be a data type error you might have done or something like that. So at least you will be able to catch and fix it.
Okay. And is that kind of delimited could be because when I was using in the SQL server, when I like put some kind of wrong delimiter while putting the file, then this kind of error were there. Like it was only null. So is that case, what would be the like default delimiter in the case of text file?
It will
Is
be
there kind of delimiter there?
Control A, which is Incremental Approach.
Hello.
It is Control A, which is the invisible character.
Okay. Okay. So is that affecting that null or something like that?
Yeah, because it is trying to search for Control A. It didn't get it. That's the reason it's saying that, hey, I don't understand what this schema is, so I'm going to return you null. So
Okay. Yeah.
that's what exactly happened.
Okay. Got it.
The second example which I gave you also, Harshan, this will actually just kind of the same demo which you are going to do. So when you will use the string, you will see it will read a partial thing for you, which I just talked about.
Okay.
Yeah, Shivank, I have done that load part. And when I select star from T1, it is giving us 1, 2 null, 3, 4 null, and 5, 6 null. So the reason behind this is like 1, 2 has taken as a single string because we have given the first column as a string and second column as integer. So it hasn't found any integer, that's why it has given null.
Okay. Let everyone else also complete. Sure, Girish, I just saw your message. Whoever complete, keep on letting me know, guys. Right now, only Gaush have done it. You can type on the chat box also that you're done. Okay, good, Arun, Aditi, Suti, Ram. Anybody else? I think Gaush also. Okay, only 5 people have done. What about remaining 25 people? If you need any help, just keep on asking me, guys. Okay, good, Pradeep. Last 2 minutes. Last 1 minute. Okay. Any question, guys? Now I'm going to start. Now let's fix this issue. What is this problem here? Number one. So when I was creating this table, the challenge was I was not defining the delimiter. So now instead of that, what I will do is I will not end this statement here, but instead I'm going to say row format delimited. It means my row is going to have now some sort of delimiter. And what is that delimiter? fields terminated by whatever delimiter it is. I will explain you all this in detail. I just did a mistake. Okay, I did a typo here, guys. 1 second. Now it will work. So let's see what it did. So first of all, I said that create table T2, I gave the column names. Then I said every row, whatever I will be having, have a delimiter. So if you recall, my data was like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I'm just telling that every row in this data have a delimiter. That's the first thing. Second thing, what I'm telling here is that if I talk within the row, we have these as fields, like one is one field, two is another field. So all the fields which are there, means all the data which is there, they are terminated by, means what is the delimiter between them? This is the comma delimiter. So that is how we will be defining this. So we will say comma this, and now this will take up everything well. So what it will do in this case is, this is going to now start reading up the data. So what just happened in this particular situation, that now if you say that load data in path, it will work. So that is the first thing, how to fix it. Now another thing, when it in your example which you had done, I told you that take it like a string, and integer. What just happened? This 1, 2, if you look at it, this thing, can I read it like a string? Yes, I can read it like a string. That's the reason in your output, you must have also got 1, 2, and then after that, it couldn't find the delimiter control. So for C2, it must have returned you null. Similarly, 3, 4, null. Because this part, it was able to treat it like a string, but after that, it couldn't find a controller. That's where it's stopping. Now, if you will do the same thing with the changes I just showed you with row format delimiter, will this solve the problem or not? In the problem which you have solved, will this solve this issue if you add this delimiter now? Or will it still take it 1, 2 and then sometime?
It should solve the problem, I guess.
Okay. So let me first fix it at my end. So first, let's see whether it's fixing it for my integer or not. So for this, let me remove all this. Let me again load this data up. And let me bring the command load data in path. It's just that now I will mark it as T2. Let us see if it has already done it or not. Okay, it is still loading. Once it have loaded, now let's just go ahead and insert this inside T2. Now I can say select district from T2. I can see the data is showing up for me. Can you all quickly go and fix it at your end? Now for the same string table, just add these two lines and see whether it's getting fixed or not.
Shivank, if the first column is still defined as varchar or a string, then the comma will also be treated as a character, right? What happens in that case?
Can you just execute your string thing first? And I will just answer that. In fact, you will yourself get the answer. but then we can discuss about it.
Okay.
So you have taken the table as string comment teacher, okay? The same one. Once you're done, if you're able to see the records, let me know.
Shivank, I can say it's correct only. It treated the comma as delimited.
Yeah, so what you do instead here is that search for the comma. If it gets the delimiter, it stops reading from that string. So it is,
Okay.
if in your string itself you want the comma, then put your data inside double inverted comma or something. Okay.
Understood.
Last 1 or 2 minutes, quickly complete this, guys.
Shivang, is it considering some kind of default delimiter?
Yeah, that's what I just answered, right? That's a control A, CTRL plus A, which is actually called as invisible character.
Invisible character. Control A.
Yeah, this is a default delimiter, which is very weird, I know. At least I had never seen anyone using this delimiter in the files.
Yeah, I have also not heard of it.
Yeah, but this is the default delimiter. I don't know why these guys kept it like that, because ideally they should have kept it at like a comma, which is the most frequently used item.
Can we change it explicitly?
In the configuration files, I never saw the setting. So
Okay.
at least I have not seen it. There's a file called as hiveconf.xml. I have never seen this delimiter settings there.
Okay. Okay.
One of the reason why we do that, I can tell you one reason why I can think of. So right now, whatever you're learning, right, this is just for your understanding. But actually, you will never be working on a text or a CSV file when working across with respect to your Apache Hive. I will tell you in maybe in tomorrow class why I'm saying this. You should never work. If you're doing this, you're doing it in a wrong way. Done, everyone? Can I go ahead now? Any questions from anyone on this? Okay, perfect. So after we understood so many concepts, now it's the time for me to introduce you with the book. Can everybody see this? The document which I have shown in front of you? Perfect. Now look at this. What all things we have learned. It will be just in a little better explanation here. That's it. So here, first thing first, here I have also added some components into Impala, though I'm not going to talk in Impala in detail here at all, like how it works and all, because it's not a part of a component and it will eat up a lot of time. So I want to spend more time on the Hive optimizations, which is going to be more important for you, which is not a part of actually this my book. So this is something I will tell you from my experience. Now, the first thing we talk here about is that we save everything in /user/hive warehouse. This is all we understood. Look at this part. What happens? Even in Impala, also the same thing happens. You have an Impala or a Hive server. You can simply first go always to your metastore. This is the same three boxes which I have drawn for you in a different way. It will first always go to the metastore, get the location and the details about the data. Then only after that it goes and query the actual data on your table. Okay, this is the always the steps how it happens. Now, how my data and metadata looks like. If you look at this, let's say in this particular table, the records below, which is the data part, becomes your actual data. But whatever columns you have, like customer ID, name, country, these becomes your metadata. That's what we just did also, right? We said column T1, sorry, table T1, inside that I have a column C1 and C2. So those C1 and C2 becomes your metadata. Now, if you look at this, this is exactly the way we store the tables, right? So let's say I have a table, which is a customer table. It could be huge in RDBMS. But when I'm storing it in Hive, it could be, first of all, it will be inside a directory, as you can see here, /user/hive/warehouse. And within that, you can see this basically /customers. And inside that, the data is going to be kind of split into different files. It could be maybe 128 MB each or whatever way we have defined, but it will be setting up into the different records. Now, let's talk about some database operations. So for example, we can say create database. In this case, I've taken Laudeco. Now it will go ahead and create this particular DB directory for you. We have already seen that. So there's nothing new in this case. If in case you want to ensure that if the database exists and you don't want it to return an error, so you can say create database if not exists and the database name. So this will ensure in case if it already exists, it will not give you any error, but command will silently come out. Now, same thing here. If you want to drop a particular database, you can always say drop database, whatever name of the database. In case you don't want any error, means if the database do not exist, you don't want any error coming out, then you can always say drop database if exists, load it up. So if it exists, it will delete. If it do not exist, at least it will not throw you any error. It will come out very silently out of it. Similarly, if you want to forcefully remove, because a lot of times what happens is you have a database, inside that you have a table. Now, if you want to delete that database, it will throw you an error. It will say, hey, you already have something. I cannot let you delete it. But you still want to delete it, just add a cascade into it. So you can say drop database, name of the database, and just add cascade for it. These are some data types you have in your Apache Hive. Like for example, we have just saw string. You also have Boolean, like which could be true or false. You have timestamp, which you can also define it. You have integer, you have big integer, you have float, and you have double. So all these data types are supported. In fact, I have written just few here because there's a separate chapter for advanced data type also. Like I will show you once we move to that stage. Like you can also have map, you could have also have struct. All these data types are also supported. Look at this one now. So this is the syntax for creating a particular table. For example, you can always say create table, your table name, and then you can always define the row format delimiter, fields terminated by something, stored as some file. This is also important. So let's say you would like to basically store it like a sequence file or Avro file. I will be talking about sequence file, Avro file, Parquet file in detail. Okay, so hold on for this sequence file. I think I've already talked about, but I will talk about Avro file and Parquet file in detail. What's the advantage for it? Because that something will make a big impact when you're working with your Apache Hive. So this is just the explanation of all this. So nothing to explain from here. So this is, I've already explained you up. Now look at this. So this is the way the example sort of looks like when you're creating a particular tables. Then if you have already a table, let's say jobs, and you want to create from the same, let's say job underscore archive, you can also do that. So that's also feasible by giving this sort of command, create table job archive like your jobs. It will create it for you. Similarly, you can see that you can create a CTAS sort of statement, which is your create table as select, which is going to be, let's say, create table, whatever name of a table as, then you can give your conditional things. Like you can say select some column names from another table name where some condition. So even if you do that, it will help you to create out all the table for you. This is the same example, but here there is one slight difference. If you look at it, I've also added the location here. So by default, it goes to /user/warehouse. But in case you don't want it, maybe you want it to the default location of your HDFS. Then also you can do that. Means you can some other location, not default, just maybe in some other location as well. So you can define your location here, and that will also work for you. It's exactly the same. Now this part, I want to go in detail. What is this external table? Before this, any questions from anyone? So the reason we were able to very quickly look at the slides because we have already spent a lot of time in understanding all this. And we will be doing a lot of practical activities later. But for now, any questions from anyone on any of this part? No? Okay. Now let me talk about external table. So till the time when we were saying create table something, this table is called as either an internal table or sometimes we also call it as managed table. Okay, but a small change in the syntax, I can just say create external table. Rest of the things will exactly remain the same, no change. Now the table becomes my external table. Now, what's the difference between both of them? Just a slight difference of external. What's the impact? What it will bring in? So what happens? And guys, I need your complete attention. This is very critical and very, very important. What happens when you're working with respect to your managed table? So let's say you have created a table, T1, let's say. You have load the data inside that, all good. Now, which means what it must have done in the meta store, it must have an entry for you, which is a T1, all your column details, location, right? All these entries for you will be there in your meta store at one side. On the other hand, in your HDFS, you will be having the location for it, like let's say /user/hive /warehouse /your DB name /your table T1 and some facts, right? This is the way it is going to be. Let's say you hit this command now. You said, uh, I want to delete this particular full table. Okay. So you said drop table T1. I want to drop it completely, delete it. Now, as soon as you set delete table T1, what's going to happen at the first time? So as soon as you set delete, it will first go to your metastore location. Okay, we'll get the location of this. We'll come here and remove this T1 directory and the data from here. That's the first step. Second step, what it will do, it will remove this entry from this metastore. Everyone clear on this part? What happens in the normal scenario, which is the managed table or the internal table? Any question on this part? Now, what happens in the external table now? The same thing, just the slight difference now. Again, you have this meta store. Maybe you are in slash Loudacre. In Loudacre, you have a DB, and inside the DB, let's say you are keeping your table and so on. Okay? Let's say or your data is present here. Now, what's going to happen in this case? So when you will say delete, in this case, what's going to happen? It will go ahead and come to the meta store, and it will delete this entry from here directly, but it will not go and touch this data at all. It will not even touch this data, but it will delete the entry from here. Now let me ask you a question. If this meta store entry is deleted, now if you say select a strict from that particular table name, tell me in this particular case, do you think you will be able to access this record?
No.
Not at all.
No.
So what just happened by doing this? What's the advantage we got with this external table? Since you're working in your Hadoop systems, it is not that you're using the data only for one application. It is quite feasible that maybe your data, let's say slash Loudacre, slash maybe t1 slash a.txt. Maybe this is a file. Maybe this file is getting accessed by Scoop. Maybe it's doing some export from it. Maybe it is getting used by Apache Spark also. Because anyway, once the data is written, you don't do any change to it, right? Maybe you're also using for your Hive application. Maybe you're using it with Pig also, and many more. Maybe Kafka is also using it for something. Now, so there are so many things which might be using a single data. Now, by chance, what you did was using Apache Hive, you created this data as a internal table. Now, what's going to happen if you remove it? If you remove it, it will also by chance can also remove this also. Now, all the other applications will simply break down due to this. That's the reason it is always recommended that when you're working in your practical world, use the external table. Don't use internal table at all. This is a recommended thing. Because if even in case you want to really remove this data, you can still go and remove it by saying SDFS DFS-RM later, right? But at least you will be safe. Secondly, since multiple users are working on the maybe same table, maybe one user could be an intern or somebody who is new to the company. By mistake also you can delete it. You cannot enforce anyone or restrict anyone to delete any metadata. So that's the reason it is always recommended to use the external table wherever possible. Clear everyone on this part? This is actually very critical. Any question on this part? Okay. So after we understood about this external table, that how it works and what is internal table, let's get back. So as I just showed you, we have to just add an external keyword and everything remains the same. There is no difference here. Now, second thing is you can also go ahead and say show tables, just like in RDBMS. It will show you all the tables available for you. Similar way, you can say describe your table name. It will tell you what is the name of the column and what are the corresponding data types for it. If you look at this, this is similar to what you also used to do in your RDBMS systems as well. There is no difference from there. You can also do all these things there as well. Now look at this. When you say describe formatted jobs, this will be going to giving you detailed stuff. You can see here, right? It will also tell you like what is the table type. It's a managed table, which location it is present, what is the protected mode. In fact, this kind of gives you all the meta store details for that particular row, which it stores. You can see it's not just returning that what is the name of the column and the type of it, but also a detailed information, right? Who is the owner? What was the creation time? When it was last accessed? What is the protect mode? Whether it's read only, write only, this kind of things. What is the retention? What is the location and all that? So though it's not a part of your course, but still let me just tell you one thing. So remember there was a mode which I said, protection mode. So there is something called as Apache Sentry. Apache Sentry. What happens with respect to Apache Sentry? This basically we use it along with Hive. This is a security product. Security product. So what happens with this is we can define like permissions with respect to it very well on Apache Hive table. So it acts like a sort of an intermediate. Like you can even define like C1 column is readable, C2 column is not readable. Even you can define at that level. This is that good. You can also say, oh, you are only having the permission to write as on C1. Maybe if you are a user, some user, let's say Arun, I can define all these restrictions that, okay, Arun can only write on C1 and maybe I can say Aditi can write on C2 only. So in a particular table, I can have this granular level security. It's not a part of course, I'm not going into this, but I'm just giving you this part, like how we add security also aspects to the Apache Hive. Okay. So that is what, when you use Apache Sentry, then what happens is it starts storing all this information here as well in the metastore. Like, okay, what's the mode? How the protection looks like. Now you can see here, if you also say show create table jobs, what it will also do is it will show you whatever the commands you have used to create this table. A lot of times what happens is when you're working in like multiple people together on a project, maybe since somebody have already created that table, which you are just using it up, you don't know like how we have created, what are the data types they've given. Yeah, data types you can see it using DSC also, which is fine. But maybe you want to see even some lot of other information as well. Like you want to see that, okay, what is the delimiter he have used? And maybe whether he have created it like a sequence file or the text file, what is the whole thing you have done with it. So for those things, you can actually hit this command, and what it will do is it will return you the whole command which was used to create that particular table. Okay. Similarly, you can also
1 minute, Shivank, what if you had altered the table?
so you are saying that what if it have altered the particular table later, you mean to say?
Yeah, what if you like did some alterations on the table, and what will it show that time in that show command?
Whatever you have, it will get added to it.
Okay, so it will show the final
Correct.
data.
Because it is actually creating it from a metastore only.
Okay.
In the metastore, you will have the latest entry, right? So that latest entry it will retrieve and return you in the form of a table. Clear on this part? Everyone clear? Any questions on this part? Okay. Now let me show you one more interesting thing. So now let me remove this book because I have to show you some more important points here. Let me come to my queue. So let's get connected to Hue once again. This time I would like to go to the home page of Hue. Today the rest of the things are running faster, but somewhat Hue is working slow. I don't know why. Okay, so this is coming like this. Perfect. Can you see here? Here what is showing up? Impala. You can write your query here and can also execute it. Okay. For example, I want to change it to Hive. So you can come here, click on editor and go to Hive as well. This is actually very, very helpful. Very helpful. Means it's very easy to write your code also along with it. So let's say here, if you come, you can see let it complete and open. Yes. So here, what you can also do is you can say that I want to, let's say, create a DB. You can do it from here also. Like you can say, so it's still opening up. Can you also see before that one more thing? You can see Shivang is showing up here, which I created while creating my database. This part, the left-hand side thing, what you're seeing, this basically also reflect your metastore. This is coming from your metastores. I will show you one more thing, but before that, see this component. So here you can see create database. Okay, today Hugh is working weirdly. Okay, database. Maybe I say ABCD. Okay, and I want to run it. I can simply hit this command from here, play button, and it will get executed for me. So this will just execute it and will return you the output below. Okay, today my this is working weirdly. Can you do one thing? Can you open your view guys quickly at your end on your cloud? I will show you there it will work. My view is not letting me do anything. I think there's some problem with the browser only. Open it here. Change the editor to Hive, which I just showed you. And from there, create a database. You can see it's still working. It is not an error. It is saying operation has no valid attached. It is basically a warning sort of thing. You can see it's saying loading. You can see it's success also, right? It got completed, but it's just that it's working slow. And you will see also on the left hand side, within a minute, it will show you that ABCD is also created. Working for you, Sudhi? You can see on the left hand side also.
No, so it got created. I got a success message, but I do not see that in the left hand side panel.
Okay, then they might be using a different version of you. That should be fine. I will show you how you can do that.
Okay.
Q is actually a very powerful thing. I mean, it makes your life a lot simpler, guys. Let me know once all of you are done. Also, should we just go ahead and create some tables inside that?
Yeah, doing it.
Whoever is done, go ahead and create some table inside that. Load the data. See if you are able to view it properly or not. So whatever exercise you have done it on your console, just try that on Q quickly. See how easy it is to use it.
Shivank, I'm able to create the table in the new database, but I still don't see the database in the panel, left panel. Hello?
I'm so sorry, I was talking on mute. Okay.
No problem.
What I was saying is, there are two possibilities. One is, first of all, is your hue the same which I am showing you, or is it different?
It's the same.
The same. Then if it's showing Impala or Hive, just check, get connected to Hive in the same way and refresh it. It will come. In my case, I have by chance selected even default. Just refresh. Sometimes metadata takes time to get refresh also.
Okay.
Have you all finished it? Done with the data load part. Perfect. Sure. Guys, I need your attention. I just need to quickly finish one more thing. And maybe you can try that after that as well. So one thing is, this Hive query, what you're writing, is not called as SQL query. It is in fact termed as HQL, which you can also call it as Hive query language. That's one thing. Okay. Earlier, though Apache Hive was actually created with an intention of MapReduce, but later it became the one-stop solution for all the SQL answers. That's also another important thing when it comes to Apache Hive, which I will tell you in your optimization portions also, that how exactly it falls and how it became famous. Similarly, if you talk about Impala, in Impala, we have something called as Impala Sequel. Okay. In fact, Impala, this came up because of there's a project from Google that they call it as Dremel project. And here the query performance will be very good. It came up basically in 2012 or something, I think, by Cloudera, and they made it like open source. So that's basically what they've done. In fact, if we talk about Apache Hive, I already explained you it's created by Facebook, but here the case was different. Now, though you can get the answer and responses very fast in Impala, which seems good, but at the same time, Impala have its own issues as well. For example, when it comes to Impala do not have all the support. So you will get stuck when you're working with the complex projects. So it have like a lot of functions which are available in Hive will not work. Yes, it is faster, but at the same time, now with the optimizations which are available in Apache Hive, you can make it equally fast through Impala. No difference in that. Even ad hoc queries can run in seconds. Now, so what all architecture-wise Hive looks like? Let's say you wrote some SQL query, select, take from something, maybe join operation, something, right? You can do joins and everything, which I will show you later. So let's say you wrote a complex query. What it do as a step-by-step as a part of architecture? First thing, it is going to parse your Hive QL, which means it is going to go and check whether there's any syntax error, everything is all good or not, everything it will check. Second thing what it do is, it will go and make some optimizations. So there's an optimization engine which will be responsible for this. So one type of optimization I have already explained you. Like if it see that it can be run without MapReduce, it will do it. No need to kind of try to look at all the MapReduce only. So if it's feasible to have the optimizations, it will do that. So I have only told you one type of optimization, but there are multiple optimizations which we will see later. Third thing is, it is going to plan the execution. Now what happens here? Let's say you are running your MapReduce code. You have, let's say, this query which have so many things. It may have a join, it have group by, it have order by, all these statements within it. So what's going to happen is, it means that there should be a particular sequence which it have to follow for the optimal thing. Just to give an example, let's say you have a query where you are doing a join and you are also doing a filter operation. So one way is either you can perform your join and then do the filter, which is good. Second way is you first do your filter and then do a join. This is a better approach. Why? Because if you filter it first, what will happen? You are already reducing your data. And after your reduction of data, when you do a join, your shuffle will be lesser. Because in join, what happens? Maybe your one data is sitting here, second data is sitting here, third data is sitting here, right? So when you're transferring, you're doing a join, there will be some shuffling of data here and there, which is very much time consuming. So if you already reduce a data size using a filter and then you do a join, it will be a faster operation. The same thing will be followed here as well. So it takes a call depending on that what should be the optimal plan to execute this query. So what should be the first MapReduce thing? What should be the second MapReduce thing? So all this planning, it do it internally. Once it's done, then it is going to submit your job to the cluster. Means it will create a job and submit it to your cluster like a MapReduce job. And once it's done, it will monitor the progress and return the result to you. This is all the steps internally your Apache Hives follow. Any questions on this? Any question, in fact, on anything we have discussed till now? Any question, guys? No?
Can we see the execution plan?
Yes, there is a way to do that. There is something called as explain plan. I will make
Okay.
but it will not show you all the plans it has. It will show you the most latest and optimal plan which it has chosen.
Okay.
Any other question?
Shivam,
Yes, sir.
is the optimization similar to an RDBMS, or is it Hive has a different kind of optimization engine?
Yeah, definitely it is going to be different because in RDBMS you can simply go and create indexes. Right? Here you cannot because you're working on Hive, you're working on files. So there's a difference here in terms of it. So here the optimizations are a little different from them. I would not say everything is different, but yes, it is quite different from that. Any other question from anyone? Okay, then I think we are good. So there is no assignment for you for today class because we still were doing the basic Hive today. Tomorrow we will jump into the advanced level. There are still few things which I will talk. Maybe it will take initial half an hour or something. And then we will jump to some advanced Apache Hive to understand some context. How many of you in this session are aware of Java programming language? or in fact, I should say any programming language?
Yes, I have done Java also, but more into Python programming language.
Okay. So maybe,
Same.
yeah. So is there anyone who do not know any programming language? So everybody know at least one or two programming language, like C, Python, if not expert around it. Okay, sure. So what I'm going to do is, I may not ask you to write a code there, but at least you should have the context that how using Java in Apache Hive things works as well. So if you do not know anything about any programming language, then it would have been a trouble. And unfortunately, that only work with Java. It don't work with Python or anything. But if you know at least Python, you will be able to understand that. So I wanted to just give you that reference, like, because this is something which might come for you when you will work on a project. The situation might come. So maybe at that time you can learn it, but at least you should know from the training perspective. So I will just explain you at a very high level. I will not go into deep because you guys do not know about that. But people who basically know about it, they will definitely enjoy that more. And I will keep it quick so that it can be just done quickly. Okay. Sure. I think we are already above time. Then is there any questions from anyone?
Yes, hello.
Yes, I am.
In the user/hive/warehouse/ramnath.db, there is no folder as such.
There will be no folder, right? Oh, you're talking in cloud?
Yes, but through the query, I'm able to see a table T2 in the database Ramnath, but in the warehouse, I'm not able to see it.
Yeah, that's what I told you also, Ram, right? You will not be able to because cloud people have put this in some other location and they have restricted it. You can change this default location. If you do it on your, let's say, Cloudera or something, it will show up. But these cloud people who have configured this cloud, they have basically configured it at some other location.
Okay.
They've restricted it so that people, because there are multiple people using their cloud. What if you go ahead and delete their DB or delete their metadata? If you delete their metadata, nobody will be able to do anything. Okay. Sure, guys. Then in that case, let's connect again tomorrow. So tomorrow, be ready for little advanced Hive. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Thank you.
Sure, sure. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shivam. Thank you.